Yeah, so Jose's just clarifying, so it's coordinate discussion, right? Bo, good morning.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it all ties into tokenomics, I would say. But yeah, this is a discussion about like how we execute, and like I'll explain, I think, a little bit more how this ties into sort of our future organizational governance, budgeting, everything like that. But yeah, getting coordinate settled is something that's been sort of on my mind and a priority for us for some time. And so I think today we had a chat on yesterday, Thursday, and so yeah, we'll just dive into it today.
Okay, and then John's sitting next to me, so he's not in the. You don't see his profile on the Discord, but John wants to say hi.
Hi.
Oh, he did. Okay. Yeah, so John's here.
Hey,
Alex says he would tune in. I talked to him a half hour ago, so. But he said he would mostly be listening. He's aware of how coordinate works, so I don't know when.
Okay, I can see
me.
Oh.
I will be taking 45 minutes. I have another meeting.
Okay.
Hello, Jim.
Whoa, Jim is here. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 a.m. my time.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
I didn't expect. I was almost just specifically said you didn't expect. That's crazy. You're here. All right. Well, I guess that's the next topic. Is we should consider changing the times for. I think maybe push it back a few more hours. I think is a reasonable time for all three continents. Like usually evening Asia, afternoon Europe,
It's
morning
Americans.
Yeah, like
if I'm the one that's inside the U.S. I can do like 3 a.m. meetings. It's okay.
Well, Jose's in Venezuela.
I think it's 6 a.m. for him
6.
now.
6 a.m. Yeah.
Okay.
So with three hours from now, but let's not do Friday because that would be my Friday night in Asia. So maybe we consider like Thursdays or something, like 8 p.m. Asia, Thailand, which would
What
be
time is it now?
3 hours later. So it'd still be a little bit early
Oh,
for
yeah.
you.
That'd be 6 a.m. for me. Yeah.
And that would be 9 a.m. Venezuela, and it would be
3 p.m.
3 p.m. in
I'm sorry. Would that be Thursday or Friday, Mike? Friday for me or Thursday?
Thursday.
I'm pushing to go a day earlier, so it's not Friday night for us in Asia. So we have
Okay.
some social life, maybe.
Okay.
So Thursdays.
We could make it Tuesday. I think Tuesday is generally Thursday.
Yeah, true. Because
Thursday,
Thursdays
either.
could be also some social later.
Tuesday would be even better for me. Yeah.
Okay, maybe we skip this coming Tuesday since it's just 3 or 4 days, so we can go on to the 14th. Get onto Tuesdays on the May 14th.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. I can update the calendar and we can announce it in the channel.
Okay. Right. All right. I am gonna share my screen.
Is that okay? Tuesday?
Yeah. What time? 8?
8 Thailand.
And
3 hours from later.
yeah, feel free to jump into the Tokenomics Sigma. I'll throw it in the chat here. Is there a chat here? Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Yes. And okay, so to start out, so today we're talking about coordinate. And first let's talk a little bit about like this ideal future state and why I've been pushing for coordinate at all. And for that, I assume you can still see my screen and this is co-link. So I've made Hamza Labs Limited is now so we have the first organization, which was Hamza, right, which is where we did the first voting in this epoch. But we have Hamza Labs Limited, which I've now made a couple of different circles. None of these have started epochs or anything like that, but I added everybody who was in the old one to this one as well. And the reason why I like Coordinate so much is for two reasons. One, it forces people to update everyone else on what they're doing, to be communicative within their team, and to award other people based on their perceived value rather than thinking about how much you've done. Then it incentivizes coordination, cooperation, and it's best to keep that within a work stream. The idea being that you eventually create a vault, and that vault has something like USDC in it. And that way we can, at intervals, when we actually shift to being a DAO, we can have someone who creates the vault and adds people to the circle and everything like that. And then the decision the DAO can make is to fund a work stream with a budget. So we can set predetermined numbers for people who are core team members, right? So like people can be guaranteed a certain amount, and then the excess amount can be distributed based on the outcome of the voting. And that can be a mix of hard currencies like wrapped Bitcoin, ETH, as well as a token allocation that can be given out of the token from the DAO. So that's like long-term why I think Coordinape makes sense and why I've like broken it down into these different teams. There's a couple other ones, right? Like there's the early foundation and the pre-foundation, which I'll get into, which are these like sort of retroactive rounds, because not only using it for like continual payments in a decentralized way, we also need to retroactively reward everybody who's participated up until this point. And this is like, rather than just like hard coding, this is the percentage everyone gets. I think that we should just run this retroactive round at epochs where people are included based on the period in which like work was being done, and then move forward from there. And so that's why I have this set up sort of like this. Is we have this like sort of ideal near future state, which is what I just described, and I kind of want to fill this out today. But then we have these two sort of retroactive epochs, which is the pre-Hamza and the early Hamza. I think we should decide on what period both of these cover first. And then we think about like, well, what does the current round look like? And so I had made a proposal into the foundation partner chat, which I know like not everybody has access to, but the idea was to break the teams down into like 3 teams, which cover functionally the administrative, or like the boards that we have, right? Like the work streams that we've established. We've established a work stream for engineering. We've established a work stream for business development. And then we've established a work stream for governance. And so we need to decide the rates at which we're valuing those 3 work streams relative to one another, and then decide on a period of rewards, right? And so my initial proposal for this was to just do 100 for engineering, 100 for, and again, this is not like hard numbers. This is just like as a proportion. So like 100 for engineering, 100 for business development, 50 for administrative and governance teams. So it'd be like 1.5, and then to be running that monthly. So like an epoch covers a month of time, and then we that way, like in the ideal near future state, that allows us to, and it could be longer than that, right? Like we could make an epoch for 3 months, and we could create a work stream with a budget for a 3-month period for a team, and then a DAO needs a natural way to evaluate the work that is being done. And so any sort of contract that's made needs to have an evaluatory period that requires like the consent of the DAO. So you don't just make like perpetual contracts with the DAO, right? It gives people the freedom to come and go, and then it also provides a natural way to evaluate the work and the team. So anyway, so I'll stop there for now. And any questions, thoughts? I'd be interested to hear people's feedback.
Yes, I have a question. This is David.
Mm-hmm.
Where would finance work all here? Like in administrative or something like that?
Yeah, so that was one where, like, I had mentioned this in my proposal is, like, yeah, I think finance falls under administrative and governance, but I think it also falls under business development, because, like, that was the one worry is, like, I thought if we did 1.5 and 0.5 was going to governance and administration, then the people that would really suffer would be you and Andres. And so yeah, I don't know what the answer to that is, or what people would propose, because like, yeah, I think that would mean that you're only subject to that 0.5 distribution rather than being subject to one of the 0.1 or one of the 1 distributions.
All right.
But I mean, like, when.
So my question or clarification, I'm not sure if we've decided, is this Hamza Equity or Hamza DAO, or is this Loadpipe Foundation, Loadpipe token?
I assume this is we're talking about like token distribution, and initially I think that means Hamza, like team token distribution. It would be the token distribution that we would use for whatever raise we do, which I think means Hamza. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it means Loadpipe token, but I think it's like, yeah, I don't know that we've settled on an answer.
I think that's the correct way to go about. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for some reason, the microphone's not actually moving.
It is a little
yeah, I think that's
soft,
the
but I
correct
can hear
approach.
you. It's softer than others.
Yeah, so I think going Hamza is the correct approach. It's really a question of when people expect to see some sort of return on the work that they've been doing. And if we're raising investor capital via Hamza, I think that makes more sense. We still have some outstanding questions too, which I suppose maybe isn't a big deal, but some outstanding questions as far as like token supply. But it depends on the distribution schedule for the team. Like if we just want to keep track of this until the eventual launch, I don't think that's an issue. We can launch with 1 token or 5 million tokens. But I think Bo's right.
A comment for scalability going forward, we can't just arbitrarily determine the allocations per team. We'd have to have some system for determining that, like a vote. And it might need to be weighted by, like, somehow affected by the number of members on that team. So as of yet, we don't have that system in place, correct? We don't have a system for determining or voting on the allocations per team.
So no, we don't have a way of determining what we think the correct like weight of distribution per team is. But like the size of team doesn't change the amount. Like, so I let me see if I understand this correctly.
You're saying it should not be weighted by number of members on the team. Is that correct?
If what?
You're saying it should not be weighted by the number of members on the team.
The vote?
You're saying that the number of members on the team should not affect the allocation for teams. Is that correct? Is that right?
I mean, like the team should have a. I see what you're saying. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe. I don't know. I also don't know.
But I mean, just to also make sure I'm on the same page, this would only be from the 4th epoch, right? I think there's one bucket for pre, early, and now, or is this for all 4 epochs? I think that's
so basically it's like
epoch.
what my screen is showing right now is there's like the pre-Hamza, which would cover up until whatever period we decide up until January. There's early Hamza, which covers now January through like April, and then now would be like, what is the recurring monthly distribution? This would be breaking it into teams and deciding what we do going forward. And then this ideal near future state is this idea of like having work streams. Does that answer your question?
Wait, just to clarify, I missed. So the now one is not work streams, but the 4th.
The now one is work streams, right? But like ideal near future state is like adding what John was saying about like having a DAO mechanism where we're able to vote and allocate funds. Right now, it's like we're going to have work streams, but those work streams are going to be like if you think about it, like we have a governance structure, and that governance structure is currently like we just agreed to a constitution. We've had this in place. Like there's 4 foundation partners, and making money decisions requires unanimous consent from the 4 partners, right? And that's like hard power in our system right now. That's how governance works. Ideal near future state is like we get these sort of things squared away and we launch a token, some sort of voting mechanism, which gives the outcomes of these 3 sort of buckets the power to then influence future buckets, right? I guess is maybe the distinction I'm making here. But that requires, like a DAO. It requires a voting system. It requires a mechanism to fund a vault. And then it requires like a well-established idea of what work streams are, which we're working out with our sort of like proto-governance constitution.
Okay, so
sorry, go ahead.
Work streams are circles in coordinape, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if until we have a my understanding is that until we have a way to give allocations or vote allocations or however we decide to each circle, that we are just going to do one big circle for the early rounds. And yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
So these 2 rounds are one big circle.
yeah,
right.
Okay, and then going forward, we'll
Of
need to
everybody
decide
who's
on the trappings of doing it in circles, like the different rules and stuff like that. And I think that no matter what
Yes,
system we go with, we're also going to have to start thinking about like a system for amending the procedure in the future. Like, what is the procedure for amending our system going forward?
Yeah.
I think that's inherent in, like, no matter what system we choose. Okay, I just want to make sure that I understand. I understand, I think.
Yeah. No, because like in terms of in DAO terms, it's harder because like in constitutional terms, that's like constitutional amendment system, right? But in DAO terms, like that's like people would call that meta governance, and it's harder because like sometimes it means that you just like that's a systems or like a smart contract engineering question, right? Because like we could make upgradable smart contracts, but then it begs this like sort of permission question. And in a lot of cases I've seen, like it just means that you have to drain a treasury and move to a new DAO to change the parameters of the system. But like, yeah, right now while we're working on this like sort of proto-governance informal constitution that's not like a DAO, then it just means that we need to decide what are the parameters for a constitutional amendment.
Yeah, just a quick caveat. I know you posted something about diamond contracts a long time ago, but that's something my previous team did have experience in. I think I dropped an article that was written by our CTO at the time. He works for Consensus, so like if you have questions regarding that and the feasibility of it, I can connect you to, if that makes sense.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Okay, so if we've gotten that cleared, then let's return to this question John had earlier about the size of teams determining like the payout or like the relative token distribution. So when we run the round, all we care about is the percentage of like, so the number of tokens that people allocate will always be 100. And then we will apply like a coefficient based on like the weight that we are allocating. And so then it's like we provide a coefficient of like how much of a like I'm trying to think how best to explain this. Like say the first 2 buckets are like we decide that there's like 1,000 total tokens that are going here. And then in a current round, we decide it's like 250, right? 250 per month. And so then we would say like, okay, like I had proposed, right? So like, let's say, and again, this is not final. Again, I have that question about where David and Andres fit in terms of like getting the allocation and how like unfairly, like how weighting governance and administration less means that harms them. So all that aside, let's say we do go with like 1.5. Then we would say, okay, of that 250, we look at the percentage, the relative percentage that one person gets within their circle, and then we multiply it by the weighting coefficient, and then that determines, like, all that adds up to, over the course of multiple rounds, we look at like what their final total is relative to the whole, and that's what determines their percentage allocation of whatever the team allocation is at the end of all that. Was that followable? I know that was like a little.
Let me rephrase. It would probably be best to draw this just so everyone understands.
Yeah.
But
It would probably be best to write the formula.
yeah, write the formula, draw, do it in several different ways so that people can see different angles of it would be good.
Okay.
So within a circle has essentially like an amount to allocate. And within a circle, each individual in that circle gets a percentage of the circle's share. And the circle's share is the circle share is determined by some other way.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Circle share is determined by the outcome of the vote, right? I'm trying to think of like how even best to draw this. Maybe it's like maybe it's like small, big. So like we have circle.
The circle share is determined by the output of the vote, you said. What vote?
Yeah. So let's go to current. Let's say like let's say this is the May of circle. Okay. And let me grab a person from somewhere. Boop. Okay. And me, John, Garo, and Karen are in the May dev circle. And so we run a round that covers May, and we vote for each other. Some people vote for the people that they interact with.
Right, so with that pie then gets divided, the pie that is May dev circle gets divided up into slices, and each one of those members takes a slice.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so like say I'm allocating 100 and I go 50, 50, or 50, 40, 10, right? And then whatever. Like the outcome of this is like, we will all have a number of tokens that are from that circle, right? A number of give from that circle. And our relative percentage of that give will determine our relative percentage of like sort of whatever the total allocation is for this.
Whatever
right?
the total allocation is
like,
for that circle. For the May dev circle.
What?
In other words, the total allocation for the May dev circle, each one gets a proportion of that based on what we had just voted in the coordinate round.
Yes, exactly. So say again, we have this weighting that's like, this is 100 or like, this is 100 like relative tokens, right? And then we get an allocation of that 100 relative token based on our participation, based on the outcome of the circle vote here. And then we have like and let's just do May is dev circle, and we have a similar thing, right? Where this has like 100, blah, 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 right? And these people, everybody's given a percentage based on their relative percentage of the outcome of this circle, of these values here, which are 100, right?
So their pie also gets divided into slices.
What?
Their pie also gets divided into slices. The BizDev pie.
Yes.
And each member of the BizDev circle gets a certain slice of that pie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have the larger circle, right, which is like pre-Hamza, right? And there's a lot more people, and we would do 2 of these rounds, right? And this would say have like 1,000.
Right, it's those numbers on top that we don't have a system to determine yet. The size of each pie.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yes. So, and I think determining the size of these helps us determine the size of this, right? Because we can also, it's why like sort of these categories are broken up this way, right? Because like if the ongoing circles are like a month, right? And then we say that there's like 3 of them, right? Theoretically, all of those responsibilities have been covered by the people that were in early Hamza and pre-Hamza for the things that were going on there. And if we decide a time period, then we can say, well, what would have been the relative distribution of working over that time period according to this? We could weight it a little bit more if we really wanted to, because these are like, again, all these things were like, get a business actually built, right? And then we could, so like, if for instance, that's why like, if these cover like 250 relative distribution, and then these cover like 4-month periods, then 1,000 is just 4 of these, right? Which means that it just runs in par with the amount of total distribution or total relative distribution that's going on each month, right? And so then like a person who's like a part of this and a part of this and a part of each one of these over time, right? Like as like someone who only was in here or only in here or in 2 of these and then left, or like someone who started later, right? They would start to get a larger percentage of what this team allocation is according to their like the ongoing work that they're doing, right? As these circles continue adding up.
Yeah, here's 2 thoughts. I would be afraid of incentivizing like the want to have one's team smaller so that the allocation goes so that each person gets a relatively bigger slice of that pie. You know what I mean? So if we don't have any sort of weighting, this is just like I haven't fully like thought through this yet, but if we don't have some weighting based on the number of people in the circle, I wonder if it would possibly incentivize people wanting to keep their team small so that they each get a bigger part. Like everyone would want to be like the one single person in an important team or something like that. Maybe that's not an important consideration. That's maybe just something to consider like going forward when we decide. But here's my revolutionary idea, right?
Okay.
Each team, all right, so we have the coordinate rounds within each circle, as we do, where each member gets a slice of the pie. Then the entire organization is also a big pie. And we're trying to determine how big of a slice each circle gets. So why not just make that another coordinate round or a coordinate-like round where each team votes on other teams and gives them give, and that would determine, based on how important they value that other team's work, those other teams' work. And that would determine the allocation for each team. So
I do like I like the spirit of it, but I think the problem with it is that like it runs into the problem why we would make smaller circles to begin with, is that not everyone is like aware of what everyone else is doing. And so if you're involved in like purely marketing biz dev stuff, it's hard for you to understand how like important the development circle is, and vice versa, right? And the work that's being done there. And so it's like it begs this question of like how do you value like other people's contributions?
Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, well, but perhaps each team could have a representative that is sort of like a manager and is aware of other teams' contributions to the overall. I mean, we're not blind. We know the importance of marketing and biz dev and stuff like that. And that they could do the vote for that team.
The other thought is maybe not on an individual, but on the other bucket. If biz dev did more that month than the other two circles, they could get more total amount that month than the product team, for example. And then it would be more for that month for that bucket of the total amount. Because there might be months where the product team does amazing, or it could be like goal-based KPI milestone.
Yeah. And there will be months where one team has better performance than another team or something.
I have a similar view like you, Mike, and I think that the issue here is that we have different layers of in the process. What I mean is we have a big project that we can consider a season, right? And that season has whatever points to distribute, right? And then along the season, the weight of each department will change depending on the importance of that department in the development side of the total season, let's say. Right, that will be kind of a layer. What is if the distribution along the months is exactly the same, or it changes depending on the relevance of each team in every different part of the project? That makes sense for you guys.
It makes sense. I agree that they change, but I think that it begs this sort of question that John was getting to earlier, which is like at the end of the day, that is like a subjective determination of like what is most valuable. And like, yeah, I mean, running a like coordinate a circle of circles maybe solves that, but I think that like long. So okay, like let's think about like what is the long term solution for this, and maybe work backwards. So like when we're fully DAOified, right? Like theoretically, there is a set of governors. And that set of governors are the ones that are voting on team distributions, right? And deciding like what the priorities are. And again, one thing to keep in mind is that we're not like trying to build a perfect system. Failure is an outcome, is like a possible outcome. And it's a possible, like we will never build a system that is like that if managed poorly will not fail. Like poor management will just destroy us regardless. And so like I think at a certain point it's just like there is a set of governors who make a decision about like the relative importance of teams looking forward, and they set this like distribution based on what they want to prioritize and what things they want to and what kind of work they want to incentivize, right? Because this model like also gives itself to like allowing people to sort of like setting up bounties and to expanding teams and getting things done, but then like setting a period means that it's like there is an evaluation, and that evaluation is done by on just the governance side. So yeah, I mean, like I agree. I think that the value or like the need for different teams will change over time. But again, we come back to this like this primary issue, which is like, how do we arrive at that decision, like to decide these relative weights of teams?
And then
I think it's gonna change as we become more DAOified, but from an efficiency point of view, I think it makes sense for the same members of that sort of executive chat that you guys have to sort of determine that, because you guys have the best perspective into all the various different facets of the business. As we expand and as we change, then of course you can diffuse some of the power, I suppose, but I think it makes sense.
Yes, I agree.
And do I want to clarify, is this going to be 100% of the team allocation, or is this a part of it, or is that not confirmed yet?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've decided that. I would push for it being, well, I mean, it's we know to a certain degree that it's not 100%, right? Because yeah, there are like prior agreements, right, to some degree about some portions of team allocation. So yeah, we know at least it won't be 100%.
Well,
and I suppose it doesn't prevent us from what?
I think we should clarify that, because I might confuse people on this call. I think you mean the purse part. I hope it's okay to say that. But I think besides that, everything else is...
Yeah, like the team allocation that's left over after other obligations are...
Yeah, but I just want to make sure there's people here are starting to assume that there's... I don't think there's other arrangements that I'm not even aware of besides that one.
There isn't. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah, I was just clarifying, because I don't want people to start thinking there's some kind of like side deals or something. There isn't.
No, yeah. From the initial purse deal, there's an allocation that's promised to them that is a percentage of the team allocation, right? But yeah, to determine how we distribute the remaining team allocation, I would say yeah. I mean, I don't think it prevents us from making specific like deals for like for instance, when we're talking to mass market, right? Like we're talking about maybe doing token swaps, right? Would that come out of that remaining percentage, right? I think those are. I don't think we're prevented from making those deals, but like I do think that we should agree on anything like that. And to the point about like it being sort of the responsibility of the strategy council. Yeah, I tend to agree, but I also don't think that like it should be made in a vacuum. I think something like this, something like a town hall, is necessary.
Yeah, but do you think that system will be? I think that's totally fine for now. Does everyone think that system will be adequate for going forward, or that we'll have to modify that to be less centralized at some point?
Oh, we will for sure.
Okay. Well, then we can defer that decision, I suppose, right?
I think we can always treat it as milestone based. I think we have a couple of rough milestones. We're going to be live with Hamza this summer, but I tell people the sellers won't be permissionless until we have a token, and I think that won't be this year event. It'll probably be a early next year event, and I think that's when maybe some of these broader decentralized decisions, DAOs, would be put into effect at the same time, in my opinion.
Yeah, so as we're running low on the time in the meeting,
I know we
just cover what we need to do immediately, stuff that we haven't decided upon yet. We'll have to defer for a future meeting, but we did discuss them, and we're maybe coming closer to decisions on those, or at least a little bit closer.
Maybe I mean, I think Bo knows the questions. Do you want to run through the question? What we need to decide? I mean, I those 4 epochs is probably something, right? And then the 3 work streams, are those 2 decisions?
Yes. Yeah, and then like the relative weight, right? But just to put a pin on that, like last thing, once we get this finished, we can actually start like making DAO decisions, right? Like once we start like understanding what a team allocation looks like, we can start expanding the governance council and changing, because like right now, again, yeah, we have this like iteration of the Constitution, which is we have 4 governors, it requires unanimous consent. But like once we start understanding what other people's token allocations are, we can start saying like, okay, well, we just need a threshold of votes to do some of the actions that we've outlined in the Constitution. And even if it's not being done on chain, it can be done on chain, right? But like even if it's not being done on chain, we can actually start experimenting with expanding what the governance council looks like. So yeah. So like I guess let's just start with like what a current period would look like, because then that'll inform sort of how we can look backwards to these retroactive rounds. So like 1 month would be my proposal for what a round should be, or what the epoch period should be. I also think that we should adapt the global town hall. Jose, I don't understand your comment. How about using coordinate to decide what?
Sorry, Bo, I had my mic deactivated. I was just thinking, I don't know, just a crazy idea. I don't know if it's possible to do that, but Mike clarified that only entities with wallets can give tokens. So my question was, how about using coordinate to decide that? Instead of allocating to other people, we'd allocate tokens to workflows. But a workflow cannot have a wallet, right? So that idea is not...
I mean, a workflow could have a wallet, to be honest.
Okay.
Well, and I think that was John's idea, right? Is that we have a circle of circles where we decide what the monthly allocation for teams are. And so, I mean, yeah, I guess that's like, I just don't know how we would implement that. So like, is then what is it? So then we have like we start building like a representative democracy from like, how do we decide who's the agent that gets to vote in the workflow governance?
The team should be small enough that can be decided among the team maybe, but these are details these are definitely not insurmountable details. There's a reasonable ways we can do this, none of which would be perfect, but just like any system we create, we can come up with some reasonable ways to do this.
Well, you could say like each person gets, I don't know, 12 tokens or some arbitrary number of tokens to assign among different workflows, and then that would be like a voting system for or determining the proportion of tokens allocated to each workflow, some added across all the circle team members.
Yeah, or how about this? The circles are like states in the United States, and they have some autonomy in determining how they want to elect their electors. Something like that. But we don't have to really go into it now. There's many ways we can do
I think that's not a coordinate function. That's like a DAO, or I'm not sure.
That internal thing would be something else.
Yeah, I think that wouldn't be done.
I
think Jose's trying to say do that in coordinate. I think that would be done.
I suppose the circle could decide to that, but they might be over coordinate at that point.
He was saying there's a coordinate for that, but I thought it's not possible. Both said it could be possible, but I think that should be done outside of coordinate.
Or it could be up to the team. Yeah, that doesn't matter to me.
Well, yeah, the idea is basically having like a constituent assembly of people voting for workflow allocations. That way, I don't know if it would be possible to work through coordinate or not.
I think it could be possible.
I guess, Bo, this would go on forever, right? Or would this go on? I mean, it's not forever, right? These epochs. I mean, there is a limit to the team allocation, right? I mean,
right, but we're not. Again, like the epochs will go on forever, theoretically, right? Like what this ultimately arrives at is a percentage, like basically like we'll be distributing give over time within this organization, and the relative percentage of anyone's give will just continue to change as the work streams move forward, right? And yeah. It's also, and other things to consider is that it is possible that someone can abstain from receiving give allocation.
But at what point? Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You can go ahead and finish your thought first. I thought you were done.
No, that was the end of it.
So if at some point though the give has to become concrete, like people have to get something for their give that they have.
Yeah.
When does that happen?
Yeah. So token launch, right? So like you get so like that's the phase transition, right? So like
the idea is that it just goes on until
pre-Hamza, there's early. What?
So the idea is that the rounds continue until token launch, correct? That way, at that time, it becomes concrete.
The rounds continue. Yes, the rounds continue until token launch, and then that's what determines like the discrete amount of token which is received by an individual. But the rounds continue. It's just that the way the rounds then evolve into like a straight up distribution of money.
Yeah,
right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So then we have the tokens. The tokens are the governance. The can become the votes that then establish a work stream which is funded with USDC,
Understood.
right? Which pays for people's salaries, right?
Yeah. Gotcha. So what are the most immediate concerns that we need to address today then, in the last 13 minutes of the meeting?
I think we just need to decide on like what the relative. I mean, like I think we just need to start.
For the first rounds,
I think we need to start. I think that what?
For the first rounds, we're doing one big circle, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but the reason why I think that this is urgent is that like the longer time we take before we like start solidifying like what is an allocation on this period, what is an allocation on this period, the more time like we're just gonna forget what everybody did. We're gonna forget what we did.
I know.
And and it's going to start to like destroy like the good allocation, that a memory of like what people were contributing at the time they were contributing. And so like
I've already
the
forgotten.
faster we can get
So we're
to the
ready
place
to
where
start,
like,
right?
What? Go ahead.
I've already forgotten, but we're ready to start, right? We're ready to start then, yeah?
I'm sorry.
I said
exactly.
I've already forgotten, like what you just said people will start forgetting. I need to go back and try to remember.
Yeah, right. And we wrote a lot of it, I think, out in the first round. And so, like, I think what we need to do is we just need to establish, like, okay, we're going to have a pre-Hamza round, and then maybe this month we just say, like, let's do pre-Hamza, and then let's do early Hamza, and, like, let's do it at 2-week intervals. And the first 2 weeks, we're going to be writing what we were doing before Hamza.
Yeah.
And then the second 2 weeks, we write out what we did early Hamza. And then that covers up through May. And then we start the concurrent distribution on June 1st. And then we start running the circles of the different departments on June 1st. And then we only have 2 meetings, one at the beginning of the month, one at the end of the month, where we just like remind everyone to do it. And then, we're just like communicating that those are the things we need to do. And then that pushes this decision of when we need to decide on like relative team distributions to next month. But like, or what system we devise to decide what are the weights of the various circles.
Okay, that's fairly soon. So I guess we'll need to start discussing that. But so how many people will be in the first circle?
It's the same. We almost had it from before.
Yeah.
But just so everybody knows, the reason we had to start over is some people didn't know they had to allocate give or the deadline of the give. So we are.
Yeah.
So this time for realsies. And we need to know, everyone needs to know like exactly in very detailed terms what they need to do.
But I remember last time it was 100 give total that I allocated on the pre-Hamza. Is that going to be the same? It's always going to be out of 100, but the total. Yep. Okay. So it'll also be.
So
100.
again, the total will be. So like we could change like the default amount that someone could give to reflect like the weight of the round. But I think it doesn't matter all that much because all we care about is the percentage that someone gets of total give allocated in that team. that allows us to, because then like if we don't do that, then team size does actually affect how much give a single person can get. And we would rather look at the percentage that someone gets in a circle and then weight that with our sort of like our relative like team coefficient. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
All right. So I'm going to start, like, I'm just going to,
okay. So there's no more questions that need to be answered for the first round, is that correct?
Yeah, so I think the sticking part, it seems like from this call and previous call, is about these work streams and the amounts. And I think that's right. I think that's been our sticking point for the majority of the last two discussions on coordinate.
Yeah.
I think we all agree on the first two epochs as one and starting them as soon as possible. Yeah, maybe Monday kicks off. I don't know if Bo wants to set it up even now, but maybe officially kick off Monday with the pre-Hamza. You said 2 weeks?
yeah, I will open it up. I'll open it up now, and then I'll say it closes on, I'll just say it closes at the end of the month, and I will start another one for the early foundation. Like, let's have another meeting and keep this conversation going.
Okay. Now, how will we know about the contributions of others? They will each write, like everyone needs to know the who, what, where, when, why in very simple terms of what they're doing here. Each person must write in the round what they have done, and everyone must consider that, like read all the things and consider that before voting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So it is currently open, right?
So we need to give everyone very simple
yeah.
instructions with just the very most essential details of what they should do.
Yeah, so people go share, the first thing you should do is share your contribution. So I'm actually going to go back to Hamza and...
People did it last time.
Yeah, this is the last one. And then Hamza Lambs Limited is the one that we're doing right now. You should be, everyone here, and I think with the exception of James, should be on the early foundation. Oh, no, sorry, and the pre-foundation.
Is everyone who's voting
Maybe
in this
put
round?
Maybe put a number in front, like, or call it Epoch 1 : name, so we know it's 1, 2, 3. Just that.
Okay.
Like, maybe just at least the first few, just number them.
And is everyone who's voting in the round here on this call right now?
No,
we need to communicate with everyone because, like, there's a bunch of people that are not on this.
I know. I feel it's a lot. I feel the burden of that, but I'll try my best.
So what will happen if people don't vote? It doesn't affect the overall allocation.
It's a bold question.
No, those.
What happens?
So some people
It doesn't. I mean, it affects it. It affects it in the sense that, like, they're not allocating their give to other people.
Yeah.
But
and so,
but it goes off the percentage of who voted. Like, abstaining from vote is not really.
But they can still receive. They can't give. They're just not giving.
Right,
they're
yeah.
receiving.
Okay.
Yes, and they'll still show up as a percentage of the relative. Like, we can still query the percentage of total give, right?
Yeah, like if 3 people voted.
So, like,
if 3 people were in the circle and only 2 voted, there's only 200 give that was allocated, but it still just goes by the percentage of that 200 give. So the one who didn't vote those just disappear.
Yeah, just won't go.
And we can, any of us can create an API key. I have an API key for the old circle, and we can, like, pull the data. We can manipulate it however we want. We can look at the maps. But I believe there's a place here to just, like, look at the relative, like, literally just look at the relative, the relative percentage. Can you guys see this?
I'm seeing it, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm fully clear on what needs to be done and how it will work. I just hope that everyone who's voting. I'm not sure what's the best way to get
I'm sorry, I have to go back.
Information.
What's that?
I'm just hoping that everyone understands what they need to do and how it should work.
I mean, we made a couple of videos, and there's. I think the mistake was people didn't know it seems like a lot of people knew how to put their contributions in. I think it was all filled out there, but then a bunch didn't know they were supposed to give. Yeah.
So the first thing you need to do is go and just, like, write down what you did during this period, and think. In this period, let's say, can we? Actually, I'm gonna. What time frame do we want this to cover? let's just say 2023.
Yeah, that's 2023. I put 2023, and the other is Q1 24, and then we're going to May for 3.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say.
Well, it's a little bit more than Q1.
Oh,
Q1's only 3 months, not 4. But yeah.
Can we?
And again, we can decide what the.
How long does the
Go ahead.
vote last? Is it a week?
It's all however we want to set it. You can look. He's setting
Okay.
it right now. But I think Bo's saying give
I set it until
end of the month, right?
it's
Okay.
open until the 31st of May.
Can we have a meeting sometime during that time and just informally just all discuss
Yes,
what we have done, just to help jog each other's memory?
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
But
And
some people are
I'm
not as
sorry,
active
can you,
now. We're trying,
yeah,
but
relink the coordinate in one of the chats.
Huh?
Link the coordinate.
So you would be invited to this one. Let me see members. It's a
I
new
shared-
coordinate.
is that the wrong
So let
link?
me,
Or should I not
um,
even share this link? I put a link that you had sent me before.
No, I think it's this one now because it's a new. I made a new organization, so it's Hamza Labs Limited. I didn't delete the old organization because people still wanted access to the things they had written. So just to be clear, like first step is to go and do this and write what you did during the period, the 2023 period of the pre-foundation activity, if that's relevant. I also think David is not in this round, but David will also be so it'll be relevant for the next one. So then you go to give, and I would suggest adding a note. So a lot of people, like I think Alex and Mike added notes specifically to people about like what it was like to work with them in that period. So I'd say do that, decide what percentage of allocation you want to give to people, and prioritize people you had direct interaction with, would be the suggestion. But like,
Weird question, tangential, but the donate to coordinate. It's just hidden in there. Is that like a default thing that they do?
it is a default. Yeah, you can not donate to coordinate if you want. I think this is more for when you have a vault that's actually being distributed, because like if you have a vault that has like USDC or something in it, then it's like whatever allocation you give to coordinate itself, a portion of the vault would go to them, which I would suggest people doing. I mean, it's not as relevant now. And so like, yeah, we can probably get rid of it for these initial sort of more symbolic rounds. And so, yeah, just, in fact, I probably should have just removed them, but.
Here's a question that came to my mind earlier, and maybe it's something we need to decide, but is everyone who works on Hamza or Loadpipe or whatever, are they all going to be in a coordinate round? Like, does everyone get that by default? Or does it depend on their contract
sorry,
or their specific agreement? So,
Can you ask one more time? I didn't hear
so
it.
my question is, and we might need to decide this, maybe it's not decided yet, but everyone who works with us in any capacity, are they all going to, by default, be in a coordinate round? Or does it depend on their specific contract or agreement? Or how to determine that?
I think everybody should be in it, personally. I think everybody that contributes to the project should
How
be
do we
in
know
it.
they want to?
we are putting it in. I mean, Andres is starting to put it in. We don't have agreements, but
Okay.
he's starting to put it into the agreements.
Okay.
So I guess if somebody didn't want to,
Yeah, I mean, if
they
someone,
wouldn't.
yeah,
have to be.
Because we don't.
I think there's no reason why they have to.
Yeah, I mean, we probably shouldn't just be allocating tokens to people who don't want them or don't care about them. But I guess if we consider it part of their pay, then it just is what it is. Okay, I was not sure if we had agreed to anything on that. But so for right now, I think everyone who has done any contribution is by default in the round. Like, does Karan want to be in the round, for example? Did we ever offer that to him? Was that part of his agreement? Etc.
I did talk to him a little bit about it,
Okay.
and I assume that he would want to be in it.
Okay.
But again, that's when we start running things concurrently. And so, but yeah, I mean, like people like Dawn, people like Aaron, the new addition to the team. If they don't want to be a part of it, then that's fine. But in my mind, this is like sort of how we're determining like a team
How about
allocation for
interns?
this period before we have a token.
How about interns? If we bring on interns,
Yeah, I mean, like to me, like the ethos of the DAO in general is that like you bring value to the DAO, you get power
Yeah.
in the DAO.
Okay.
And
That seems right.
yeah, as a general rule, like I would prefer, my preference is not to treat it like an equity distribution where like we're negotiating rewards of it on an individual basis. But that's my preference. Like again, I'm not. I wouldn't. I would be willing to hear arguments, counter arguments, and be overruled. But my preference is not to treat it like an equity, but to treat it like responsibility and power.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be decentralized. We're trying to, yeah. So I think anybody is eligible. And we want it to be public, not even private. But if the community contributes, they should get it too.
So I think the beauty of a system like this is that it's a meritocracy. So going forward, it's not like someone has negotiated like a certain percentage of equity, and then going forward they just like stop
Right.
working and continue getting that. It's performance based and it changes based on output and results.
Yeah, and it allows people to contribute more or less over periods, right?
I think
like
we should be.
Sorry, go ahead.
It should be clear. There's going to be vesting on these, right? I mean, I know there's a launch, but with these won't be full. You're not going to. They'll go into the vesting pool, or these be distributed immediately at the launch. I think.
I don't think we've decided, but yeah, I mean, my preference or like my inkling is probably at least some percentage vested.
Yeah, that's definitely a TBD. Another thing that we need to consider is what the actual equity means, or to Bo's point, non-equity, but rather responsibility and ownership of like Hamza, right? If we're targeting that with investor funding, how does that equate to actual reward for the individuals is something we'll have to discuss. And I think it's premature maybe right now. I think keeping track is kind of the goal of this, but I expect we're going to talk about that as the team.
Yeah, I think this future things is a next call or a future. But I think for now we're just a bit over the hour mark. Yeah, I think we got the invite link, but some of you unfortunately won't be able to participate in this current round. It's we're trying to catch up from a while. So, but there's two now, right, Bo? Maybe we just summarize where we're at now.
We'll open up I'll open up the next one in 2 weeks, and that'll be the early Hamza phase, right?
Do you want to just open that now? I
I
think that's not a good idea to do two at the same time.
I'm sure. I haven't added everyone to it, but it was mostly because I wanted like some time for people to think about this period and to write out what the contribution was in this period. And then open up a second round and say, okay, now think about your contribution in that period, right? I don't know. I'd be willing, like, if you think it's better, we could just open them up both right now. But that was my reasoning.
One at a time seems better.
I mean, the reason I vote for now both is because, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm going to be educating and trying to get as many of these people to be using it. If they're not able to use it now, it kind of messes up the rhythm. Because there's a bunch of people on this call that probably can't be involved until the second epoch. I think
it's only David and James who are in the second epoch and not in the first, I believe. And then Garo, right? Garo would be in the second epoch, and then there's a bunch of people who are in the first who are not in the second.
Yeah, I know. Okay, whichever way.
Things. Can we set a meeting for the time when we're going to get together and reminisce? Let's call it a reminiscing meeting.
Well, that's part of the ritual. We're going to do a ritual. I mean, he mentioned town hall, which is every 6 weeks, or do we move it to monthly, and that's part of the epoch? Or is that part of the ritual?
I think we should do that. I think those things. I think those things should start when we start the ritual, which would be next month. And I think all this like retroactive stuff, like really to me, it's like I just want to get it out of the way so that we know what like a relative distribution for those periods are, so we can move to like because this one won't look like what the other ones look like, right? Like an actual implementation of this would look like people sharing a contribution as they make them, right? So like it would be like, I did this today, or I did this. Some people may decide like, okay, well, once a week I'm gonna like just do a quick write-up of like the things that I accomplished and things that I did, or like based on goals or KPIs or milestones or whatever. And so that'll be a little bit more like people should be continually engaging with the round because it's reflecting what's happening now. But to John's point, yeah, I mean, I think we should just like let's schedule a meeting to have some beers and talk about the old days of Hamza.
Yeah, exactly.
Way before all this.
Just want to remember. I just want to remember what was done.
Craziness.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so busy that my memory just goes away from past like 2 weeks ago.
Okay. And we have the town hall May 22nd. I don't know if we want to utilize that for anything, but on this. But May
well, we should talk about that. Yeah, we should talk about this on May 22nd for sure. But yeah, I mean, and as you said, Mike, yeah, like I think that we should establish the ritual, but this, yeah, unfortunately, is just not like this. These 2 rounds are just not rituals, right? Like these 2 rounds are like us sort of getting our house in order for everything that came before, and then the ritual is something that just like that we do all like every month. Right. And so this one is going to feel weird and it's going to feel different than what an actual like circle and round and epoch should feel like.
Okay. And going forward in discussing like the future rounds and how we will determine allocations and structure them and stuff, we will have those meetings, once a week or until June when we have to decide this?
I say we just like, yeah, let's maybe make tokenomics about this right now, because as James was saying, like, so like we need to like this becomes a discussion about this, right? Like filling out this here is like so we're distributing tokens. What then, once we give those tokens to people, how does that translate into voting power? And how does voting power give them control over the token vault and the cash vault, right? And what benefits do they get from having the token at all? So like to me, it's like I think this is tokenomics for now. And it also like once we get these things sort of set in place, then it sort of forces our hand to be like, okay, well, what do we do with these tokens?
Okay.
Why do these tokens matter?
So then that would mean the next one of this is May 14th, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Thailand time. So we'll take next week off from this, and then the 14th will be next. Unless we want to do something next
Maybe
week.
we should have some informal discussion because we have a lot to decide. We should come to some consensus. But that's okay. Formal meeting May 14th. That's fine.
Yeah, and then so I think the only other thing is like, okay, so we'll have governance meetings. We'll discuss this in the governance meeting for sure, and then we should have that like let's grab a beer and reminisce meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be down to do it Sunday if you guys were. I would also be down to do it like next Sunday, and then like that meeting on the 14th will be when we'll like clean up the last round and then start the second round.
Okay, Jose's asking more questions, but I think we all got to take a little bit of a break. But he's asking about salary. Is this going to be replacing salary in the future?
So no, it wouldn't. Just to quickly answer that question, you can set I forget where you can do it, but you can. There is a way I know. I would have to look into it a little bit more, but you can set someone's like base. So you can say that like you can fund a vault, and then you can say one person is automatically getting 1,000 USDC out of this, and then everything that's left over that's not promised to someone, it goes is subject to like the allocation of the coordinape round. So you can use this system to set a work stream, give core team members a guaranteed salary, and then also an incentive on top of the guaranteed salary. And I would say like we should probably establish eventually the standard that like someone who's getting a guaranteed salary maybe like can allocate but recuses themselves from receiving given around. I mean, and I think that's on an individual, but like I know for instance like if I was doing a round like that and I was getting a guaranteed salary, I would probably recuse myself from getting like the on top stuff and leave that to people who were like, because one of the things this allows is it allows someone to like come in and be valuable and not have a guaranteed salary, but then get paid for their work based on just the recognition of their value. Again, as John was saying, in the very meritocratic way.
Okay, so the system is very flexible. Then you can implement all sorts of remuneration strategies you like,
Yeah.
right? And so that would be basically how salaries are decided in a DAO.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's exactly what I was saying earlier. It's like that's the reason why I like and I'm pushing for coordinape so much is that it gives us a path to like actually do work stream governance in a way that is governed by a DAO.
Yeah, yeah, and flexible enough to accommodate outside third parties, external contractors and such, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Interesting.
All right, well,
Sorry, guys, I gotta go.
yeah, I think we got to wrap. I mean, we say an hour, we got to try to stick to our time. Most are leaving. So I think we got it going. We got it going. So May will be catch-up month, and of course, some calls and discussions, and then we'll kind of get back on. We'll get on track into June formally with more current now time.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Bo.
Sounds good. Thanks for taking the time, y'all.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.